Welcome into Sports Around the Bar, your favorite sports talk show. I'm sure, as always, I am Jake, your bartender, and I'm joined on center stool by my co-host, Drew. And man, Drew, I didn't think we were going to make it. We've both just been wrecked by this flu season.
How sick can we both get at the same time?
Just terrible. At first, I thought I got it from you, and then I was like, I haven't seen Drew in days. I haven't seen him in a while. And then I was like, no, I don't know what it is. So thanks for tuning in with us. Sorry if we sound a little off. Sorry if something doesn't sound perfect or anything else. But we just know we're both soldiering through whatever it is we're going through. It's terrible.
Mine's post-Super Bowl party. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. I've been just hardcore partying, drinking, just hammering it out.
And I just have the coronavirus, so no big deal.
Yeah.
You can look forward to that tonight. Welcome in, guys. Again, as I pull this up and I get to see all your beautiful comments roll in, as our president would say, all the big, beautiful comments. As all that comes in, I just want to say, how you guys doing? Great show. We're glad we're back. Sorry it's Friday instead of Thursday, but like I said, I don't think we were in good enough shape to do a show yesterday. And every time I put a post out that's like, hey, we're going to be moving the show, I get like 3 people that are like, and Facebook shows it to like 7.
Scott, good to see you. Glad you're here, man. Oh, man.
Well, we've got we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We are going to go into some draft talk. No specifics, no mock drafts, but we are going to go over the positional groups. We're going to go over good fits. We're going to go over where we think this draft is deep, where we think it's shallow, so that way when you're considering what your team specifically needs, you're going to say, oh, we need defensive interior. Well, there's a couple guys at the top that we really like, and then there's a lot of kind of question marks afterward. Oh, we need cornerbacks. There's a lot of cornerbacks in this draft, a lot of receivers in this draft. We're going to go over all of that, plus more, as well as we're going to talk about the XFL, which starts tomorrow. And I, for one, can't be more excited.
I'm ready to watch football.
I just hope it's better than the AAF.
I feel like it's been a year.
Exactly. Yeah. It's been a long time, right?
Justin, good to see you, man. Glad you could join us.
For some of us, it's been longer. But I said, like, my team didn't make the AFC Championship. We're also going to talk about these NBA trades here at the deadline and anything else you guys want to talk about. Again, the show's open. You got a question, you want to throw something out there, that burning sports question, today's the day to answer it. So we're glad you guys are here. With that, let's go into some of this draft talk. I don't see any questions coming in just yet, but Facebook is with some of these comments.
Yeah, no joke.
Edward says, I think you meant to say Drew on his high horse because he's the champ. What's it like looking down at everybody? See, I don't know. I've never tasted that.
It's my first time.
Yeah.
I was a virgin. It's my first time. I don't know what happens after this. Dude, is it everything else just a decline from here? Or does it just keep going up?
Yeah, this is it. Your life is high pointed. That's it. It's all downhill from here. Let's talk about this draft, though. Justin says he wants to talk baseball, which we can. Spring training is almost here. The never-ending sport of baseball is almost back upon us. But we can talk baseball if you want to talk baseball. You got to get into a little bit of specifics, though.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about like baseball as a whole? Well, viewership is slightly declining year in, year out as some of their older fan base dies. Like I said, got to be specific.
Bring back steroids.
Yeah, exactly. I'll watch when they start hitting 500-foot home runs again.
In the Hall of Fame.
We can talk about that. That's a good topic. You know, he asked recently. He said, "Can I get reinstated? The Astros are cheating. I don't see you kicking them out."
They didn't take any of their rings. They're not even punishing any of the players.
It's crazy. Although, do you think they get the black mark when it comes to them going in the Hall of Fame?
No.
I think they might.
No way.
It's baseball, dude. Old blood. They'll be like, well, you did this one thing wrong this one time. And don't get me wrong, this is more than just like one thing wrong. Yeah. I'm exaggerating. But baseball is like most ruthless when it comes to kicking people out of their Hall of Fame and out of their good graces. I think they will. I think guys like Carlos Correa, when he comes up, and Altuve for their second baseman, when they come up the end of their careers, and we're asking, are these guys
were they ever
Hall of Famers?
Are they Hall of Famers regardless?
Not yet, but they probably will be.
You think so?
Yeah, if they stay on the trajectory,
Not they're cheating.
What about Verlander?
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, dude, he's
a Hall of Famer.
He's gonna be in.
But do you think he gets the kiss of death from Major League Baseball?
No way.
Well, we only have to wait 10 years to find out, so that's cool. But like I said, you have a specific question you want to talk about, Justin, you throw it at us.
Tree, my beautiful wife, good to see you. She says, "Go Yankees." See. She just knows what teams to root for. I don't even have to say anything at all. I don't even have to have any kind of, God. She just knows.
Can you be any more basic? Do you like the Patriots, the Yankees? We're just gonna go.
I don't
just run down the list.
But I do like the best team in the NFL, which is the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you knew that or not.
This year.
Well, for
historically has not been, but this year.
Historically. Yeah.
I hate the Yankees. Just putting that on a limb, but I feel like I'm 75% of baseball fans where you're like, hey, yeah, screw the Yankees.
Which one of my teams do you even like? None of them.
I don't hate the Chiefs.
Because
I don't love the Chiefs, but I don't hate the Chiefs. I'm ambivalent.
it's because I like them. You just automatically hate them.
I don't hate the Nuggets. I'm not like boo Nuggets.
Well, that's because you have nothing to hate about the Nuggets. They don't do
They
it.
haven't won yet. Yeah, as soon as they win, I'm like, man, forget the Nuggets. They're trash. I hate them. I almost said something else, but forget them. All right? Different F word. Justin says the Crosstown Classic. He says he's a Cubs fan. Me too, buddy. Me too. And he's kind of scared of the White Sox this season. They have been stacking up this offseason. I agree. They've been on the comeback trail, but I don't think they're there quite yet. I know the Cubs need to turn it around. I'd like to see their pitching get better. But I don't think I'm not that worried about the White Sox just yet. I think the White Sox will be better, but I don't think it'll be good enough.
Nate told me to stop bragging. I'm not bragging. They're just the best team in the NFL, Nate.
It's not bragging if it's true, right?
Exactly, Nate. It's not like they just won the Super Bowl and they're just the best team. And
Nate, this is going to be my life for like the next year.
Probably going to, win a couple more Super Bowls before, number 15 decides to retire. I mean, that's not bragging. It's, it's just the truth.
Okay. All right. Well, we've got 15 years to worry about that. We'll talk about it then.
Yeah, more like 22.
Let's move it. 22.
The way people are playing
My
now.
heart can't take it. My heart can't take another 22 years of this. I think I'll be dead before that happens. My liver will give out. Let's talk about the draft. Are we ready to move on? Can we talk about something that's actually coming up and something I actually care about? Can we get away from the Yankees winning championships, the Chiefs winning championships, the Nuggets soon to win a championship?
Frank, good to see you. He says, go Sox. I know he meant Reds.
To be fair, my Cubs did get one.
Yeah, after 100 years.
Yeah, but they got one. Well, the Chiefs only took them 50.
Yeah, it's half that time.
Exactly. Twice as efficient. Good to see you, though, Frank. We're going to talk about the draft. What I want to talk about by position, how deep of a draft this is going to be. Because, last year was all about the defensive players. We told you, look out for the defensive interior. We got a bunch of those guys coming in. Watch out for edge rushers. Watch out for everything else. This year's a little bit different. And when I say a little bit different, I mean totally different. Because let's start with quarterback. Because I think this year we have 4 potential first-round quarterbacks, and then we've got 8 guys that could go into the second and third round that have enough of that upside that teams might be intrigued enough to go and take them.
Frank, I'm so sorry, man. He meant the White Sox. Go White Sox. I thought he was a Red Sox fan, but that makes sense being a Bears fan.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Frank. That's my bad.
Going back to this quarterback class, obviously you got Joe Burrow, right? Everybody's already got that. He's basically, his career's already over. He's in Cincinnati.
Oh, man, don't say it's over.
Man's dead on arrival.
Zach Taylor might be able to pull something out.
Is Zach Taylor going to be the guy staffing this team? I don't think so.
He's going to...
I don't know who is, but I know it's not going to be great.
I hope not. I don't know why. It's not like I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan by any means.
They've been down so long.
It's been so miserable there for a while now that it's like, can they get a break?
No. But they can try.
But I think Joe Burrow's a great place to start.
Great start. Absolutely. I think we all agree with that. They'll get their left tackle back from last year that spent all year out with injury. If they re-sign Joe Mixon this offseason like it seems likely to do, this could be one of those teams that, I don't know, Drew, maybe they're on the comeback trail. You get the running game going. You bring in a couple more offensive linemen, protect Joe Burrow. I don't love their weapons, but again, Andy Dalton made the most of it. Maybe Joe Burrow can too. This could be another one of those Arizona-style rebuilds where it might take us a couple of years, but Cincinnati could turn it around. Beyond that, you got Tua Tagovailoa, who I think, if not for the injury history, would be just behind Joe Burrow. And maybe even ahead of him because we've seen consistency. He's been consistently great for multiple years. I know there's been a lot of talent around him at Alabama, but I don't necessarily worry about that so much because as much talent is around him, these defenses he's playing are some of the best in college football. You don't get great SEC quarterbacks, and this year, because of the defenses there, coming out of college, this year we've got 2 of them that are absolutely fantastic. I know he's got the injury history, but this guy, there's a reason people are talking about, despite all these injuries, he could be a top 3, top 4, top 5 pick.
Yeah. Ken, my dad, good to see you. He says, Kansas City is great. See, it's not just me. It's not just me.
It's your dad, too.
Yeah.
Real far from
my wife.
Real far from the tree. Okay, that's okay though. As we move on to the quarterback.
So,
no, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, please.
You have a question, please.
I don't have a question.
All right.
Actually, I will go. I'm sorry. You know what? Let me talk for a little bit. No, is this?
This is about Kansas City, so help me God. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
And so from that part right there, so you got your top two. Is there a huge dramatic drop off?
Yes.
See, I don't think so.
I even think between 1 and 2 you have the huge drop off because again, Tua has played something like 18 games in college and he's had 3 serious injuries, both ankles and a hip. You could argue the hip happened because he was playing on an ankle coming back too early. But the injury history is there, and it's all lower body. I am concerned about Tua Tagovailoa. Absolutely. I think he's one of those guys that outside of injury, if he had never been hurt, I would be saying, like, this guy could be pick number 2. It'd be kind of like the Winston Mariota draft, where you're like, both of these guys are just clear-cut, way out in front of everybody else. You have 2 guys that could be elite quarterbacks, in my opinion, from the get-go, and don't need to improve, and that's Tagovailoa and Burrow. So, yes, I think it's that important, and I think that's why the Dolphins are going to trade up to pick 3. Spoiler alert for any kind of mock draft going forward. The Detroit Lions obviously don't need a quarterback. I don't think the Redskins will trade. I think they'll take Chase Young because even though they came out and said they'd trade the pick for a king's ransom, I don't think anyone's going to do it. I think the Giants are interested in drafting an offensive lineman or a defensive player with pick 4, so I don't think the trade happens there. I think the Lions are going to trade out of that pick, and I think the Dolphins, with their 3 first-round picks, are going to swap with them and then take Tua before anyone else can get him.
James, good to see you. Ken, good to see you. Justin says, look what Carson did for the Bengals. Can't be that bad for Burrows. And he says, watch the Bengals, shock us all, and go Chase Young.
That would be the ultimate Bengal move, and I love Chase Young. I don't want to detract from him at all, but just the positional value. Everybody knows quarterback's the most important position, right? A quarterback is like 75% of your team almost. You can have the best team on paper and Mitch Trubisky playing quarterback, and it just doesn't work. And I'm sorry, Chicago fans, but you know what I'm talking about.
When you're talking about Carson Palmer coming into the Bengals organization, he was inheriting a team full of playmakers and a good offensive line and a relevantly good defense. When you look at what Burrows is taking over in Cincinnati this year, I mean, there really isn't any highlight that you can go, hey, at least you got this.
Joe Mixon, right?
I mean,
and you don't have the line to block for him, but you've got Joe Mixon.
Yeah, but that's
for now.
That doesn't work.
The contract's coming up, but for now.
I mean, that really doesn't work, though. I mean, you're going to need more than that, and I think it's more the fact on the other side of the ball. I think the offense, I think what you saw with those young playmakers, maybe there's something that Burrow can get out of them as well, and of course Mixon, but that other side of the ball, their defense, I mean, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
And Ken says Jalen Hurts will do better than Tua Tagovailoa. Well, Ken, he is on my list. He's one of those intriguing prospects. He's at the bottom of it, but he's on my list of quarterbacks that I do find as intriguing this year, where you could spend a 2nd or a 3rd round pick on Jalen Hurts, and I won't just absolutely rip a team to shreds. I don't think Jalen Hurts has a lot of potential in the NFL because he has accuracy problems. He has some dynamicism with his legs. He can make things happen like that. But if you look at what he did at Oklahoma, especially early on in the season before teams got a lot of tape, he was having a lot of success throwing to wide open receivers because the Big 12, not known for its defense, Lincoln Riley's offense is one of the most creative and getting guys into space and finding them open. He was throwing the ball to wide open receivers and good things were happening. As they played some of the better defenses, especially like I kind of showed it in the national championship when they played LSU, or the playoffs, I should say, you could kind of tell the back half, the back 9 of the season did not go the right way for Jalen Hurts, and it's because defenses started to tighten up a little bit. They didn't have quite as many just wide open receivers, and he struggled. I don't like him as a prospect, but he's I want to compare him and Jordan Love to Deshaun Kaiser, where I say these guys have so much physical potential, so much physical talent, that I want to believe that I can coach them up and we could turn them into a great NFL quarterback. But right now in college, they're raw. I think that's the best way I could say it, is they're raw. They're not ready yet. They're going to need significant coaching from a guy who knows what he's doing. And I'm not so sure that it just depends where he goes. Maybe he lands with the right place. Maybe he's like the Seahawks take him and something happens to Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll can kind of work him up and coach him up. But right now, I don't see that team that is just in a dire need for a quarterback that's going to take Jalen Hurts and are going to be able to maximize his talent.
Martavius, good to see you. He's already got his XFL team. He says, go Vipers. I disagree with you about this quarterback class. I think there is a jump from 1 to 2 down to 3, but I don't think it's as significant as you say. I still think Justin Hubert, Jake Fromm, and maybe even Jordan Love out of Utah, they might be able to push that. They might not be that top 5 pick, but so far when you look at people picking quarterbacks at top 5, haven't really panned out very well. It's kind of those quarterbacks that fell a little bit later in the round that seem to develop, obviously.
Because they go to the better teams.
Well, yes. Absolutely. But, that just because you go to the better team, if you're not talented, it doesn't make a difference. Look at what...
Yes, but just because you're talented, you go to a bad team.
Look what the Steelers just did. They realized that both their backup quarterbacks are probably not starters in the NFL going further. So... But
how many games did they win?
I bring up Patrick Mahomes. I bring up Lamar Jackson, and even you go further back. You can go Russell Wilson and other quarterbacks like that. These are the guys underneath that I think still have quality at a starting quarterback in the NFL. And I completely disagree that there's a giant jump of talent, even though there is obviously a different level.
The reason I will say there is a giant jump is because I like Justin Herbert as a prospect. He's got the big arm. He's got the size you want to see. And at times when he's in rhythm, he's unstoppable. But then there's times where he's just out of rhythm, especially coming against some of his tougher games this year, that you're like, this guy looks like a different quarterback. He's such a rhythm passer that I don't want to compare him to Jameis Winston, but he's almost like Jameis Winston, where he has these plays where you're like, my God, that was fantastic. And then there's other plays where you're like, who is this guy? We're talking about him being a first-round draft pick. Justin Herbert is, again, the ultimate coin toss, I think, in my opinion. And I think he's probably going to go pick 6 to the Chargers. I think they're going to pull the trigger. They're going to move on from Rivers. They're going to say, we're big body, big arm. It's exactly what we're looking for. More of a pocket passer, but he has the feet to move around when we need him to. I worry about Justin Herbert going forward because it seems like in some of his tougher games, he wilted a little bit. And not necessarily, the talent gets better. But when you get to the NFL and you get to that next level, defenses, you're going to be playing great teams every week.
Joseph, good to see you. I got a couple comments here, and I'll let you comment back. Justin says, Hurts, don't sleep on him. If he could be great as a wideout if he doesn't cut it as a quarterback.
Terrell Pryor style.
And Martavius says he thinks Fromm should have stayed for his senior year.
He could have, but I think the problem with Georgia is they're losing a lot of recruits. The offense just, at the point where Riley Ridley and Riley Ridley and all these other receivers had left Georgia, it was just such a depleted roster. I don't know that next year was going to be a lot better. They're losing DeAndre Swift again, and I know Georgia has 300 5-star running back recruits, so they'll probably be just fine. But I think Jake Fromm moving out was more about just going to the NFL, even though this year was not statistically his best. If you look at the tape, they didn't ask a lot of him. They weren't asking Jake Fromm to beat teams. I think when he goes into his interviews, if he works out well and he shows a little bit more flash, he can say, hey, you put some good receivers around me, I can beat them. Fromm is my 4th guy on my quarterback list. He's one of those guys that, again, the title game manager is overused, but he's the guy that's going to come in and not make any mistakes for your team. If you put a good team around this guy, you can win a Super Bowl. Whereas Justin Herbert has that volatile where he can win you a game, but he can lose you one too. I think Fromm is the opposite of that. He can't win you a game by himself, but he's not going to lose it for you either.
Fromm actually was my number 1 guy until Burrow had this crazy season. So I'll drop him down to number 2. I just don't believe in Tua as far as going into the NFL. But hey, I've been proven wrong many times before. Nate says he's pretty sure it's hockey season now, guys. Let's talk about that. Nate, you give us anything to talk about hockey, we'll do it, man.
You want to talk about how the Predators are going to sneak into the 8th seed and then have this miraculous comeback season and win the Stanley Cup? We can talk about that.
That's not happening.
Yeah, no, they're playing but well, it depends. They're kind of they're on the come up. They're on the come up. I think they're a couple points out.
Is that what they're
But yeah, if you have a hockey question, by all means, throw it out there. We'll talk about it. Ken says, "How about them Blue Jackets?" Yeah, absolutely. Joseph says, "What about them Chiefs?" I'm not reading the whole thing. What about them Chiefs? And he goes on for about 8 hours for it. Justin says, do we think the Titans need to draft a quarterback or stick with Tannehill or test free agency? Also, where do we think Jonathan Taylor lands? He's starting to keep asking, but the dude is a freak. I actually have Jonathan Taylor as my 3rd running back right now. And obviously, that'll change. We're going to go through some things with the combine and everything else, but I like J.K. Dobbins. I like DeAndre Swift better than him for the simple fact that I feel like those guys are more versatile. They catch a little bit better out of the backfield, whereas I feel like Jonathan Taylor is more of a pure runner. And in today's NFL, I think that versatility gives you an advantage. I think he's a monster running the ball. Derrick Henry doesn't catch, and Derrick Henry obviously is an effective running back. You don't have to catch, but I think it just helps your case in the draft when you can do multiple things. And I think those 2 guys I'm going to put ahead of them. I think I put Zach Moss behind them at Utah. He's more of a receiving back. He's a little bit smaller. But he's also a great guy. I like Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to make a team that is consistent and willing to run the ball consistently like a Seattle very happy when they draft him in the second or the third round. But I think there's guys like DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins that will probably get taken before him because they're able to catch. And they're 3-down backs as opposed to being a 2-down back.
I'll answer the Titans question. They're going to stick with Tannehill and draft a quarterback. That is the smartest move that they could do. If they bring in somebody, like if Tom Brady became a free agent or if Rivers, I still think, in my opinion, it's smart to stick with Tannehill at this point. He's already kind of developed chemistry with the team. But it is the Titans, and they've done crazier things than that.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about Tannehill is, I mean, what if he sucks next year? What if this was a Case Keenum year with the Vikings, where he has this amazing year, and the next year he's just not the same guy? I know Case Keenum didn't get to stay with the same team.
He didn't stay around, but he's got chemistry with these guys.
He does.
And you know, maybe Brown is already a good wide receiver regardless, but he made Brown look like a number one wide receiver.
He did. One thing I will say about Tannehill is they should try to keep him, but it's got to be for the right price. If not, I mean, just go ahead and draft him. I think Jake Fromm might be available at, 29 the Titans draft at, 28, wherever they're at. I think it's 20. Yeah, it'll be 29 because the Packers finished with a better record. But I just think that the Tennessee Titans, if you're going to pay Ryan Tannehill $28 million a year, you're going to have to draft a backup quarterback to follow in behind him because you're going to need to save the rest of the money for the rest of the team. It's a lot of money to give to a guy that could flame out and not be that good and need some help, more help around him.
Adam, good to see you. Bennett, good to see you. Cody, good to see you. Bennett says, what can Fromm do in the NFL? He is a he's ready to be an NFL quarterback.
Yes, he is ready to be an NFL quarterback.
And that's why he was on my board extremely high.
More than anything, I think he might be the most NFL ready outside of Joe Burrow. And when I say that, it's only because Joe Burrow had like the best college season ever.
He kind of reminds me of an Andy Dalton, but without the arm strength. And it's not like he has a weak arm. It's just Andy Dalton was a red rocket for a reason.
Right. I think when you talk about Jake Fromm, he probably has the lowest floor, which means you're probably going to get the best play out of him to start, but he has the lowest ceiling out of a lot of these guys too, where maybe he doesn't turn into Patrick Mahomes or he doesn't turn into Aaron Rodgers, where he becomes the best quarterback. I think Jake Fromm, again, the game manager title sums him up perfectly. If you build a great team around him, he's not going to make any mistakes. If you can run the ball and you've got good receivers out there that can break tackles after the catch, you can win a Super Bowl with this guy. I absolutely believe that's the case with him. I think he's going to go with the bottom end of the first round. But the thing about Jake Fromm, I don't think he's the guy that you can say, we're not a good team. We're like Oakland right now with Derek Carr. We're not that good of an offense after Antonio Brown left, and we just don't have the weapons. We can't count on you to win the game for us when you have Jake Fromm. You have to build the team first.
Cody says, any love for Eason?
I don't hate Eason. I think Eason is another one of those second to third round guys that can develop in the NFL. The problem I have with Jacob Eason is he was abysmal under pressure. Absolutely abysmal. I mean, he had some of the lowest, like any kind of grading, anyone you look at, any kind of performance under pressure when the pocket broke down or when he was blitzed, he was absolutely atrocious. And when it get to the NFL and these guys are getting there faster and hitting you harder,
he's got a long road ahead of him to become a starter in the NFL. That's the best way to put it.
But the thing I like about Jacob Eason, and I don't mean to cut you off.
You're not cutting me off. I mean, I was going to end it. It's just that just kind of, hopefully that burns a fire underneath him to make him prove that he's better than that.
The thing I like about Jacob Eason is when things stay on schedule and when you keep that pocket clean, he looks great. It's just when he's under pressure, he's terrible. So if you can put him on Indy, I think that's a great pick for them because they're going to keep him cleaner than most other teams are in the NFL.
We got a bunch of comments here. Adam says the Bears are going to trade Trubisky to the XFL MVP, and Justin answers that for his understanding the Bears are sticking with Mitch. That is true. That's what they said, at least to the public. And they're going to play an offense that he used to play from college.
Remember when they were going to stick with...
I have not heard about that, but that honestly sounds like the best idea. But that means you're asking, and I just blanked on the coach's name for the Chicago Bears.
Matt Nagy.
Matt Nagy to step away from what he considers himself as an offensive, guru, genius, whatever you want to call it.
But wasn't that the problem where you're too rigid? But it's too much what Matt Nagy wants to do versus what the team is able to do?
Exactly. And so you're asking Matt Nagy to do that? I mean, we'll see.
Shut up and do it, or we'll get a new coach. Yeah.
That might happen.
One thing I will say about the Bears, you need to stick around with Trubisky. I know everyone said this was a terrible year, but I remember last year where Chicago fans were celebrating this guy because even though he wasn't making a ton of great plays, good things were happening to the team. I think it's too early to give up on him. I think the truth about Mitch Trubisky is he's somewhere in the middle of everyone's personal opinion. Last year, it was this guy's great. He's going to be an amazing quarterback. This year, he's a bum. We need to get rid of him right now. Don't fall into that court of public opinion that everyone just kind of overreacts to everything. you got to see another year or two of this guy before you're ready to move on. And I know that's tough, but you spent so much draft capital getting him, trading up to go and get him. On top of it, you spent the second overall pick. Don't let one bad season throw it out, because I think there's a lot of different things Matt Nagy could have done. I think you can get better at the wide receiver position, even though I love Allen Robinson. Outside of that, I think you've just got some guys. Even Anthony Miller. I like Anthony Miller.
Receiving options is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Because I love the running back that I
No. For receivers.
Oh, okay.
It's just one of those cases that I think you can't throw the baby out with the bathwaters because you have a bad game or a bad season. He's never. I don't think he's going to be Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's what everyone always kind of groans about as Chicago fans when you're like, look at what we could have had with that pick instead. But hindsight's 20/20, man. Going into it, I thought it was a bad pick, but right now I'm still the guy that says you have to give him a little bit more time in Chicago before you're just ready to kill him and move on to the next guy.
Montgomery was the running back.
Yeah, Dave Montgomery.
Ken's already calling you drunk. He says Taylor's a first round in his opinion, mid to late round. Swift before Taylor, and that's when he called you drunk.
Swift, yeah, I would take Swift before Taylor.
Oh, well, I thought he was telling you were drunk. I don't know if you said that.
No, well, I might be drunk, but dude, I would take Swift before I take Taylor. Again,
He's
it's the versatility.
Somebody drunk. I just assumed it was you.
Georgia's offense took a big step back this year. No argument here. They lost a lot of wide receiving weapons. They couldn't throw the ball down the field pretty much at all. They couldn't stretch things out, and I think that's what kind of slowed down DeAndre Swift's production. Yeah, I would take him over Jonathan Taylor. Not to mention Jonathan Taylor has been used and abused. I mean, do you remember Melvin Gordon and Monty Ball coming out of college? Those guys were monsters in college, just killing it on the ground game. And then what happened? They get to the pros. Monty Ball couldn't even make it because his body was so used up. It took Melvin Gordon a couple of years of rest and recuperation before he's ready to go. Jonathan Taylor's almost the same guy. They just run him into the ground. He's had so many college carries that I'm looking at that as a GM. Also, when you talk about a first-round running back, it's got to be someone that's just going to change the game. And I like all of these guys, but with all of them out there, I'm not spending a first-round pick this year on a running back. I'm just not doing it. It's more positional value more than it is anything else. I think these guys are incredibly talented, but I'm not spending a first-round pick on a running back when I can go spend a second or a third round and get a guy who's 90% of the same guy.
Yeah.
85% of the same guy when I can spend a fourth-round pick to get him. I mean, it's all about value, Ken.
And scheme. And if they fit your scheme.
Yes, exactly.
Martavius says another question about the Falcons. He knows that they have at least 3 more years with Matt Ryan. He's wondering if he's thinking that they should draft a quarterback or continue to develop Kurt Benkert. He really likes the kid and he'd hate for his Falcons to let him go, but and especially if he becomes a franchise quarterback for another team.
You can carry 3 quarterbacks on your roster. A lot of teams do it. The other thing I will say is
a lot of teams don't.
It's never wrong to draft a kind of question mark quarterback. And the only thing that you kind of run into is, does the starter kind of get insecure when you're drafting quarterbacks each and every year? When you're spending second and third round picks on quarterbacks, does Matt Ryan get insecure with it? If you can explain to him and get him on board, we're like, hey man, look, this is just for, future purposes and we need to be protected against you getting hurt. If you can get him on board with that, I don't have any problem with it. Asking about him, the best thing you can do is draft him, Martavis, and then hang on to him and just see what happens. I mean, at that point, you're getting to run these 2 guys against each other in the scout team. You decide which one's better, and you jettison the one you don't like, and then you do it over and over again. I don't think teams are aggressive enough at quarterback because the position is so important. Why are you not always trying to get better at quarterback? Short of the Chiefs, that you're like, we got this 24-year-old, but even the Chiefs, I think they could take a backup quarterback. Like, hey, if something happens to Mahomes' knee, maybe we're not relying on 36-year-old Matt Moore to come in next year.
Well, you don't even know if he's going to be there next year. And then Chad Henne was hurt for majority of the year. And
is Chad Henne I say is Chad Henne the guy, but everyone seems like they're the guy in Kansas City's offense, so who knows? But yeah, I think rookies are cheap options. There's nothing wrong with drafting one.
You keep drafting. You never stop drafting all the positions. That's just what it is. And and Matt Ryan and Martavius, you know this, should look at it as a positive thing. It's another guy to push him and make him, a better player than what he is right now. But I think we all know it. Matt Ryan's the future at this point for the Falcons. They're not moving away from him. Just a down year. It's been a couple 2 down years, but they were in the Super Bowl not too long ago.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about this. I keep speaking highly of the Falcons every offseason, that this team is literally just a push away from being one of the better teams in the NFL because they're littered with talent. I know that window's coming closed, but it's not yet.
I agree. I mean, Matt Ryan could make it to 40. Who knows? Ken says Dobbins will be a second to third round pick, unfortunately, for his Buckeyes. I think just about every running back could be a second round pick. There might be a team that's desperate enough that says, I just need a running back. I'm going to spend a first round pick on one of these guys. But there's so many of them that I think are good enough that the gap is small between them. I think there's like 4 probably elite guys, and then there's probably like 6 or 7 behind them. This is a deep running back class. There's not a Saquon Barkley that you're like, he's generational.
I'm trying to even think of a team that's just desperate need of a running back. Maybe besides
there aren't
Miami.
a whole lot of them, and there's going to be a lot of teams that have multiple picks. Maybe Miami might be one of those teams with 3 first-rounders that takes a running back, but
or Cardinals maybe.
To be honest with you, I think the best running back stayed in school with Travis Etienne for Clemson. I think he was the best. Yeah. I mean, you look at the way that guy broke tackles. I think he was the best in this class. I'm stoked to see that guy
play at the next level.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see him next year when he's out as a senior. But for this year, you have a lot of great players coming out of the running back position. I don't know that you need to reach on that first round pick. And usually, when you have a deep position, you can sit back and say, "Well, we'll just wait."
Yeah. Justin says Justin Jefferson from LSU or whatever his name is could be decent in the right program.
He's on my list of like 15 guys at wide receiver. This is the wide receiver draft. Kind of like last year was defensive line. This is the wide receiver class. There's like 15 of these guys that are third round picks and higher.
Last year was a pretty decent wide receiver class.
Yeah, decent. But this isn't a decent. This is a generational wide receiving class.
But you're seeing what the college game is changing too. They're airing it out a lot more. It's a pass happy league. And it's just what it is. So you're going to see a little bit. You're going to see the stats get buffed a little bit out of it.
But you get guys like Jerry Jeudy that's doing it in the SEC. You get guys like T. Higgins that even with his size can create space. And
I'm not saying these guys aren't. I'm just throwing
even
that
the small school guys. Well, I say small, but I mean like not as popular. Not top 10 teams. You got guys like Rieger from TCU, and you got Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State. You have so many of these guys that. Normally, these guys would be like the second or third receiver coming off the board in a draft. And this year, they're going to be like 8, 9, 10 because there's so many of them. I mean, you've got Brandon Mims from Baylor, which I know historically Baylor wide receivers don't work out very well. But if you look at his performance at the Senior Bowl, where they asked him to step outside that 3-route tree he ran at Baylor, and he was starting to run more complex routes, he was killing it. I mean, the guy looked absolutely fantastic. He was torching everybody at the Senior Bowl. There's going to be like 12, 13, 14 of these wide receivers this year that I think reasonably could be starters in the NFL for an entire career. This is the deepest wide receiver class I've ever seen. And it is not even close.
I'm not saying it's not, but the stats are a little bit buff because of
and yes, you're gonna go more towards the throwing group, but some of these guys, I mean,
I'm right there.
Yes, Jefferson for LSU played with Joe Burrow, but I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy, but CeeDee Lamb playing with him just absolutely phenomenal. I know everyone. If you wanted to track from, the only thing I can take away from him is he did it against Big 12 defenses. Outside of that, the guy was fantastic. I mean, he is just as good as Jerry Jeudy, who looks like a generational prospect. I mean, I don't know, Drew. I think this is going to be one of these drafts we look back and we're like, man, either how did all these guys miss, or we've got like 8 amazing wide receivers that came out of this group.
B's, good to see you, man. Glad you could join us. Ken says running backs don't get the respect like they used to. We have capitalized at a lot of young backs who are changing the game.
But are they, though? And here's the thing. I think the best example of that is Devin Singletary and Dave Montgomery, third-round picks from last year. They both came in and looked very good doing it. I mean, yes, are they Ezekiel Elliott? No, but if I'm going to spend a third-round pick on somebody instead of spending a top 10 pick and get 85% of the production, 90% of the production, doesn't matter. I think more importantly, it's about the offensive line you build in front of them, and you put a guy with a little bit of talent behind him, anyone can have success, as long as it's not Trent Richardson that's running into tackles. I mean, as long as you get away from that, I think a lot of guys can have success in the NFL. And that's why they don't get the respect. I think teams are starting to get a little wise to that unless you're a generational player like Saquon Barkley, where you're just, or Christian McCaffrey, where you're just shredding tackles, everything else, you just don't have to spend that pick to get that guy anymore.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the word young. I think that's the best way to do it. I think as the game is changing and we're learning more about, how bodies hold up and how they're utilized and the way everything's going on, I think that position is focused on how short that window is. So you're seeing these young players come in and playing at a high level. The question is, after that high level, after 2-3 years, where does it go from there?
Right.
And that's kind of where, I agree with you, Ken. I see what you're saying. But you look at Saquon. I mean, he was ran into the ground, and now he's all banged up.
Todd Gurley. I mean, amazing
Melvin
2018,
Gordon.
2019.
And that's the issue is the guys that are going to be your Emmitt Smiths and your Barry Sanders and your Adrian Petersons are the guys that can keep doing it consistently for a long period of time. And I do agree with you, though, because there are a lot of young backs out there that look like they could be good, but you're going to see a huge drop-off in about year 3 and 4 where they're not doing it anymore.
Right, and Justin says, this may be the deepest wideout class, but are any of them going to be the next Randy Moss or Jerry Rice? Let me say this, Jerry Jeudy looks like Antonio Brown in college. I think that's my best comparison. He is so fast. He's not the best contested catch guy. I don't think he's as good at taking the ball away in contested situations as Antonio Brown is, but he runs so fast and runs such precise routes that he's just open all the time and doesn't have to make them. I know he had a couple drops, but that can be kind of anecdotal. Some years you have some drops, everything else. I think you can just look at this wide receiving class and you're going to say, well, the likely guys that are going to push those guys, like Randy Moss and Jerry Rice or CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy, but it could be Jalen Reagor. It could be, like I said, Ayuk. It could be Juwan Jennings from Tennessee, somebody nobody's talking about, but this dude after the catch he's like a running back down the field where it's impossible to tackle him. I mean, there are so many guys. Obviously, Jerry Rice is a lofty comparison, right?
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot for someone to say he's going to beat Jerry Rice. But I think this is one of those sets that you could have the next great generation of wide receivers where you'll say, hey, those guys were great. And then the next generation, we had Jerry Jeudy and we had CeeDee Lamb. I couldn't be more hyped about this receiving core.
For me, it doesn't have to be the next Randy Moss or Jerry Rice. I'm down for another, A.J. Green and Julio Jones. They don't need to be the best ever, but I like another top 10 wide receiver. Being able to watch him develop again would be great. Cody says Carson and Penny in Seattle is a perfect example of what you're talking about for draft value.
Yeah. Chicago has, like I said, Dave Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. Yeah, that they've gotten some work out of. Derrick Henry was a second-round pick. I mean, you can get running backs in the late rounds. Look at the Chiefs. Is Damian Williams highly sought after when he went to Kansas City? No, but they found a guy that fits in their system, and he looks great, right?
That's really what matters. I mean, look,
you don't have to spend that first overall pick to get somebody.
Look at the Titans, and I think this is a great example about, you could have talent, but if you go in the wrong system, it doesn't matter. Derrick Henry goes to Titans. First couple of years, he doesn't look like he's going to be the guy they thought he was going to be. Because they had other people in front of him, but the system was not ready for a down the hill running back. They're kind of wanting to do, the smaller back and bring him out around and throw the ball, and you kind of had the shifty back
with DeMarco Murray.
But then finally they're like, no, our development here is just to run this guy right up the middle.
I think he improved his game too. I do. I think we underrate that. Guys aren't the same year 1 to year 3, and I think that happened a lot with Derrick Henry.
Kansas City's offense. I'm not saying with Kansas City, but in that offense, he wouldn't flourish because that's not his style of play. It's not his style of play.
Well, he's not catching the ball. I'll say that. Mahomes is not throwing it to him.
That's what I'm getting at.
But
and they're not really running up the middle.
I think even Derrick Henry in Kansas City, you spread him out and get all these little cornerbacks out here trying to tackle him. I think it would work.
I'm not saying in Kansas City's
backs.
team. I'm just saying that offense, a running back like Derrick Henry does not flourish. It needs to be in a system like the Titans where he would flourish in the Ravens. He would flourish with the Seattle Seahawks. But that's again, it matters what system you're in.
Justin goes on to say this draft is pretty deep at cornerbacks as well. Yes, just as it is deep at the guys catching the ball, it's deep at the guys defending it as well. Do we see any potential at all for the guys coming in at cornerback? Yes. First off, let me start with Jeff Okudah from Ohio State. And, I mean, the best comparison, obviously, is Marshawn Lattimore, where you're talking about another Ohio State cornerback, but I think he's a lot better than Lattimore was as a prospect. I think his size, his speed, he has all the physical intangibles. He's lengthy. He's got he's going to be the best man coverage corner we've seen in a while. And it's not even close. I think even someone like Lattimore, there was a little bit of doubts with his injury and everything. I have no doubts about Jeff Okudah. He's going to be absolutely fantastic. Outside of that, you got Kristen Fulton from LSU, I think is the next guy on the list for it. He's really good too. I like C.J. Henderson from Florida. Everyone's going to look at the back half of the season. You'll see people criticizing him and saying, oh, he didn't have a good back half of the season, but he's playing through an ankle injury. I think those two guys, Okudah and Henderson, are going to be fantastic man corners. I'm drawing a blank on a couple more of them. There's like 8 corners that are actually really, really good in this draft. Yes, cornerback is going to be fantastic. There are zone corners, there are man coverage corners. It's going to be a plethora of guys that no matter what kind of defense you run, there's going to be someone here for you. And I think because of that, I mean, Okuda's going top 5, but outside of him, you might see some of these other guys drop because everyone's saying, I can wait. I can get this guy. There's so many of them, I can get one later. I think safety's going to be good. I think, at least at the top, I think there's like 3 great safeties. And that's Ashton Davis from Cal. It's Grant Delpit from LSU. And the last one is the Ohio Xavier McKinney. I think those 3 guys are going to be great safeties, even though I think Grant Delpit falls to the second round because he can't tackle anybody, which is a problem.
It's a huge problem at safety.
Yeah, but you're going to drop him over the top, and he's going to get you a bunch of interceptions because his ball skills are fantastic. And you're going to say, well, Derrick Henry shoved him over and ran in a 70-yard touchdown, but he got a bunch of picks this year. Yes, there are going to be a lot of safeties, a lot of corners. This is a secondary draft for it. I actually think there's a decent number of linebackers. Maybe not at the top end. Isaiah Simmons is the best linebacker at the top end. But there are a lot of guys in the middle at linebacker that are, even though they're undersized, they're going to be good coverage linebackers. They're athletic, everything else. And obviously some of those guys aren't going to hit. Some of them will, because anytime you've got like a 219-pound linebacker out there, they're not always going to work. But there's so much athleticism at linebacker this year. I think there's going to be some good ones there. The D-line, top end good, bottom end not so much, especially in the interior. No. Outside, you got A.J. Epineza and Chase Young, and after that you got a bunch of like maybes, like Clavion Chason, absolute beast of a man. Like, you look at him, he's going to be one of these guys that has a great workout, and then you're going to go into the draft, and someone's going to reach and take him, and then they'll be like, wait a minute, he didn't perform at LSU despite all these tools, despite all this talent around him, and now he's not doing it in the NFL. I just think there's so many guys that have so many question marks at edge rusher. This is not the year to draft an edge rusher and just say, we got him, unless it's Chase Young.
Justin says Kenneth Murray is going to be a beast. Mark his words.
See, I actually don't like Kenneth Murray. He's talking about the linebacker from Oklahoma, and the reason I don't like him is even though he's athletic as all get out, he's missed some tackles, and he's a better going forward linebacker than he is dropping back. In today's NFL, I don't know how much value that has. He's a little bit smaller than you'd want to see.
Limited time playing because if he's a first and second down back.
I mean, he has the athleticism.
Kind of like a Reggie Ragland.
But that's the thing. He has the speed. He has the athleticism. I think it's just mental right now that he doesn't read the or he doesn't read the offenses fast enough. He doesn't know exactly where he needs to be, and he gets burned over the top a little bit. And I think his coverage is, even though he has all the tools, and if he works with the right defensive coordinator, they'll turn him around. Right now, I don't think he's not as far developed in the pass coverage kind of standpoint that I'd want him to be at this point, and that's what I don't like about him.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been kind of in a can't see Super Bowl fog, and as much as the Senior Bowl is huge and helps develop some of these players and ask them to do a little bit different, I'm kind of, when they start getting ready for the combine and we start going through tape, that's when I really get heavy in the draft, and I really, obviously you hear everything that everyone's saying. You hear the receiving group, the corner group, but there's always those guys that come out of these like positions that just kind of like spur out of nowhere, where it's like, because when you're watching a game, it's so hard to focus on one player.
Yeah.
And then when you finally break down the tape and watch that one player, you kind of see where everyone's going to be at. And I know this is just one guy. Think about Don Terry Poe. He had a huge combine, made himself a very highly draft pick, but when you sat down and actually watched his tape, he was constantly in all these plays. And that's where you're going to see some of those guys. And like, I know now we're saying the defensive line has those one or two guys. After that, I bet anywhere.
Well, when I say one or two guys, I'm going to say sure thing.
But I'm just saying the need of that position right now, where you're looking at like your Aaron Donald, your Chris Jones, and your younger Fletcher Cox. That guy, those are the guys that people need, and a lot of people like to start. All these coaches are young, have very untalented defenses like the Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to be looking at players in those positions and hoping to grab for them.
Sure. And I think there are a lot of those guys, especially at edge rusher this year, and Martavis is talking about that. I'll read his comment here in a second, that even though they're not the sure thing, some of them are going to work out and a lot of them aren't. But when I say there's not a lot of edge rushers here, I'm saying there's not a lot of guys that you take them and you're like, we got our guy. Like, we're fixed.
And I know you're not saying that either. No, I'm just talking.
The best case scenario is when you're the good defense and you're like, I can spend my draft pick on this guy and I can get a third edge rusher that can come in and spell everybody, and then if he turns into the next best thing, then I've got another great starter. But if he doesn't, well, I haven't really lost that much. And Martavis goes on to say that the Falcons are getting rid of Vic Beasley. And he definitely sees the Falcons getting a defensive end in the first round. I do too. I think a lot of teams are going that direction. They may go corner instead and try to buff up the secondary, but I think it's going to be there. All I can say is hope A.J. Epinesa sticks around for you, because he is the last sure thing I feel in this draft. You got Chase Young, who he's going to be gone by the time the Falcons pick. I just hope A.J. Epinesa sticks around for you, where you just don't have to worry about it. They need a bigger defensive end who's going to be a little bit more of a power rusher, because they've gone with these little guys like Takk McKinley and Vic Beasley and the speed rushers, and it hasn't quite worked out. I think putting another guy that plays a different style on the opposite side of Takk McKinley next year will be the right move for Atlanta getting back on track.
I think they'll also go into free agency. I haven't really gone through contracts either, but I think
and all that's up in the air too.
They'll be looking at free agents as well. I mean, definitely a big name that everyone's looking at is Clowney.
Yeah.
Who knows if Sal's going to sign him? That'd be a huge signing for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and then you can go corner because you just got your guy at defensive end, and he's one of those. We know he's going to be good. Yeah.
Or you get another young defensive end and just double up, kind of like San Francisco did.
You absolutely could. Just to round it out for this draft talk before we move on to our next, while we talk about the XFL really quick, I just want to say that this draft has a lot of potential from the question mark standpoint. A lot of these guys like Clavion Chason that I talked about, guys like Yetur Gross-Matos from the edge rusher, pretty much at every position. There are a lot of guys that have the potential to be great. And not every draft is like that. There's a lot of them where you either get your guy or you don't. I feel like there's a lot of guys that are in the middle right now in this draft that you can say, I can see the pluses. I can see how this guy could become elite. I can see how he could become a great player. But there's this that's holding him back. So this draft, the top end's great. The middle is kind of murky, and you're like, I could get a great player, I could get a bad one. And there's not a whole lot at the bottom end where I'm like, when you get to round 4 or 5, you're going to be, throwing darts at the wall and hoping you catch something more so than any other year. I think this draft is going to be incredibly deep from at least, the ceiling standpoint, that I might get a guy who's going to be great.
Well, I mean, just like last year's draft, round 1, 2, and 3 all became a lot of starters and a lot of good players for teams in this year. So I imagine it'll be the exact same thing with the NFL or the college level football, where they're developing their players a lot quicker, a lot better than they used to.
Just to round it out, we talked about just about every other position. I want to talk about offensive line. There are going to be some great top-end tackles here, and then I think there's 5 of them that I like. You got Josh, I don't want to say Jacobs, but I think it's Jones from Houston. That's kind of the bottom tier of my tackles. You got Mekhi, I'm drawing a blank on all these names right now.
The boy from Iowa?
No, the one from Louisville. Mekhi Becton at tackle. Well, you do have him too. You Wirfs from Iowa.
Yeah.
You've got Andrew Thomas from Georgia, and you have Jedrick Wills from Alabama.
Yeah.
You've got 5 amazing first-round tackles that they're all going in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're all first-round tackles. Interior, you've got some guards that are good. What's his name? Justin... I think his name is Jacobs too, or something like that, from Ohio State. He's going to be good. You've got the Tulsa kid who's, again, looks like Quentin Nelson, but gets hurt a lot. There are going to be offensive linemen of the same caliber that if you get one of the top 4 or 5 guys at a position, you're like, I'm getting a good one.
Justin said his cousin named Ben Brinson, from Michigan.
I actually don't know about him. I'll have to look him up.
I am so off with draft stuff, don't you? I apologize. I've been in a fog with the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl.
Still celebrating.
That's my excuse. Plus being sick.
We'll move on. Any final thoughts on this draft, Drew? We're gonna do a mock draft here shortly, and then all of it will be thrown out the window as soon as we get the free agency out of the way. I can't
wait to actually put some time and effort into this. I think this draft's going to be good. I got excited about the draft last year. I think it's the exact same thing this year. Again, like I said, college is developing these players so much better now. It's kind of easier for teams to go out there and find starters. The problem is when you find that gem, that's the one that's always fun to find out.
Exactly. XFL. Are you going to watch it?
Yes, I am.
You know what? It's going to be easy to find them because if you look at these matchups, or if you look at these networks, I mean, they're going to be on ABC, they're going to be on Fox twice, they're going to be on ESPN. What is the best thing the XFL can do to succeed? Right now. You're in charge of everything. What do we need to do to succeed as a league where the AAF failed and everybody turned it off?
I don't know, man. I honestly don't know because you're going to say...
Well, it's a good thing I'm here because I do.
You're going to say play good football,
No, I'm not. That's the easy one. That's the easy one.
But it's not.
No, I'm saying that's the easy one to say. It's not the easy one to do, but that's the easy pick. Yeah, just be the NFL. Just be the NFL. Why can't you get those kind of players out there?
Beg high school students to come play for you.
No, I think what they need to do is be entertaining. Obviously, the field is going to be what it's going to be. It probably won't be the best. I think at best you're talking about good college football teams playing against each other. At worst, you're probably talking about bad college football teams playing each other. But I think they need to be entertaining with their actual broadcast. I think they need to do a better job than the AAF did when they put Marvin Lewis up in the booth with Maurice Jones-Drew, and they put me to sleep while I'm listening to him talk. Well, the thing about this guy is that he just hangs out. Oh, yeah, I've noticed that too. No, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear something entertaining to listen to. You need to keep my attention. You need to do something. I will take it. I'll take it. I'm never going to object. I watched all of the halftime show. I mean, I'll watch that too. Seriously, though, beyond that, put somebody in the booth that's interesting to listen to, because there's going to be times where this game drags. There's going to be time where your product is not up to snuff with everything I'm used to watching. Go hire some stand-up comedians. Go hire somebody that's going to make the game interesting to watch and interesting to follow, even when the on-field product may not be at its best.
Chad, good to see you. He says he's seen a mock draft today that someone had J.K. Dobbins going to Kansas City only if it would be that awesome. Dalton, good to see you.
I wouldn't hate that as a first-round pick. I mean, if it's 32, it's basically a second-round pick anyway. And if you're going to get the first running back off the board, I wouldn't hate it.
Dalton says he's rooting already for his XFL team, Dallas Renegades.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas looks like they're going to be a great team. I absolutely agree with you. I think they're the odds-on favorite to win it all.
Justice says you're going to have to look back 4 years ago and it would be like, what the hell is the XFL? Honestly, he thinks it's going to fail. Not right away, but he thinks it's going to fail.
Well, they did project that Vince McMahon is going to lose $375 million, even with these TV contracts, everything else. He's going to lose $375 million in the first 3 years.
When you're a billionaire.
Yeah, but that hurts anyone's pocket, Drew.
Yeah, it does.
If you got $1,000 and I take 375 of them away from you, you're still like, whoa, hold on now. So, it's a gut check. I think, does Vince McMahon have the stones to kind of hold out, whereas last time it kind of fell apart? I think they need to keep it similar enough to the NFL. We weren't crazy about all the new rule changes, but who knows? Maybe they work out. I think they need to keep it interesting, though. Go with the entertainment side of things. The guys run the WWE forever.
Martavius says, play great football and also be smart with business moves and manage money properly. And I'll give you this. They picked the cities because of population. And I get it. But you could have picked smaller markets and brought in, like, maybe cheaper concessions, and you'd see a lot of people show up.
I agree.
And the problem with going to, like, Seattle and Houston and Dallas and
LA. Like, there's not enough stuff to do in LA already. If the Chargers aren't selling tickets, how are you selling tickets?
You're struggling filling your stadiums with your other teams. Not Seattle, the Seahawks, but Seattle baseball doesn't sell out.
Yeah.
I mean, they just
they support the soccer team, though. They sell the soccer team.
There's a reason the Supersonics are no longer in Seattle.
That is true.
This is an issue. I get why they went there, but man, I liked what the Alliance League was doing, where they kind of put teams in other smaller areas,
like Birmingham.
It made more sense,
right? And I agree with that. I like the St. Louis pick. I
do too.
I think Dallas. You put football in Texas, people are going to go.
That's why there's Houston,
exactly, and Dallas. They've got both of them.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. You put football in Texas, people are going to go watch it. DC's not terrible. Again, I don't hate it, even though you got the Redskins there. It's not the best. It's not the worst. Seattle, I'm right there with you, though. I don't know that I pick Seattle. I don't know that I pick LA. I know they want that West Coast kind of representation, but I just don't know that those are the right markets. Same with Tampa Bay, and I know Tampa Bay fans, but I mean, the Buccaneers have a hard time selling tickets.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers have to rely on people coming and like invading their stadium to sell enough tickets.
Yeah.
So why Tampa Bay is my biggest question. New York, hopefully there's enough people that they can make it, but I think my biggest thing about the XFL, if it's going to make it, if it's going to succeed, I have got to be entertained between the plays. I have got to see some people up there that are actually interesting to listen to, because I think that's where the AAF lost people. They're like, I got to wait. I'm listening to these guys just bore the hell out of me for hours and hours and hours. I think that is the key. Vince McMahon's run wrestling forever. Wrestling is nothing but entertainment, right?
Yeah.
Give me a little bit of that. Give me a little bit of that flair. I'm not saying the same thing. I don't need to see Landry Jones like break a chair over somebody's head. But what I do need to see is somebody up there that's going to keep me interested in what's going on, even when it's not. I mean, I usually listen with the TV on mute anyway, but still, I need somebody up there that's going to keep me interested when I do actually have the volume on.
Yeah, no, I agree. Martavia said San Antonio should have been a location, but maybe when they expand. If they expand.
I don't know that they go 3 into Texas, but you might. You might. Again, you don't want to cannibalize your own markets.
There's a lot of people.
And Texas is huge. I agree. But again, I think there's other places in the country you could probably move it to.
Yeah.
What do you think they're doing in Wyoming right now? No, I'm just kidding. But yes, I think it's definitely going to be on the radar. Any city in Texas is pretty much on the radar.
But, like...
outside of, like, Abilene or something.
I mean, I know Chicago has tons of places, but, like, they didn't go anywhere up there. There's no Detroit. There's no Chicago.
Yeah.
There's no Indianapolis. There's no Cleveland. I mean, I'm not saying that they would fill it out, but there's definitely areas for them to go.
I definitely agree. All right, NBA trades.
Let's do it.
Winners, losers. Let's start with Andre Drummond in Cleveland. Was it the right move picking up an expiring contract for Cleveland, for the Cavaliers, trading away basically a ham sandwich to get him?
Is it a bad move? I mean, as long as,
if he sticks, you're like, nice. If he doesn't, you're like, well,
it's not,
we gave up Brandon Knight.
Yeah. It's not a bad move. It's not game-changing. It's not like, watch out, Cleveland. But it's not a bad move.
Dalton says, do we think that Kentucky should get a pro team of any sport? Yeah, I think Kentucky can cover it. The problem is, there's so many other big markets in that area. Like you have Cincinnati. If you're talking about Louisville, that's not that far away. You have Nashville, that's not that far away. You've got you got cities on the East Coast. I think Kentucky's just in that bad spot that even though they have some larger cities like Lexington and Louisville, there's just so many other bigger cities that are so close to them, like Indianapolis, that everyone just like wants to draw those people from Kentucky to their other places, rather than bring everybody to Kentucky.
I think Louisville could have done it. Maybe
I don't hate Louisville. I think it'd be a fine place. But again, you've got Cincinnati that's like,
Knoxville?
2 hours away?
What about Knoxville?
Well, Knoxville's like 3 hours away from us. I mean, it's on the border there with Virginia. But
the way they love their Vols.
That's true. But are you going to capture that same kind of energy?
Well, that's why you got to put good football on the field.
Well, is that going to happen?
I don't know.
I don't know what we're in for, Drew, but I can tell you this. It's not going to be NFL football. I'm going to watch it. I hope it's great.
Is it going to be better than Canadian League?
Yeah.
Is it going to be better than arena football?
Yeah, but the gap is narrowing here. Just going back to these basketball trades, I'll say this to Cleveland. This is a risk worth taking because Andre Drummond might be the kind of guy that has a little bit of loyalty and says, hey, these guys traded for me. I mean, he said it all when he said, I couldn't believe Detroit did this to me after I've been so loyal to them. But, on the reverse, Andre Drummond saying, I can't believe they would do this when my contract's expiring. What are they supposed to do? Just wait and let that contract expire and get nothing for you? I mean, he even said, he's like, I know this is a business, and this kind of like exemplified it to me, but it's like you could have signed an extension.
Well,
if you wanted loyalty, you could have showed them some loyalty too.
Okay, come out and prove it on the court.
And I don't blame him leaving Detroit.
No.
I don't either. But again, you can't be like, I can't believe they'd do this to me when you're like your contract's running out, and they're like, well, he's leaving anyway. We might as well go get that ham sandwich. I don't know. It's, again, Andre Drummond, I think, in Cleveland, I think is a worthy risk for them with considering what they gave up. If you have a great year, if him and Kevin Love can find some kind of chemistry and finish the year out strong and win some games, maybe you convince him to stay and say, hey, look, we got the two big men. We can go for that New Orleans kind of flair when they had Cousins and they had Anthony Davis. I know it's not enough, but if you're Cleveland, what else are you going to do?
LeBron?
Yeah, we're just waiting for the next LeBron to come up in the Akron area. Outside of that, we got nothing going on. I think it's an okay risk. Again, if he walks, well, you didn't give anything up to get him. If he doesn't, you're going to have a little bit of money. You're going to say, hey, look, you, Kevin Love, and maybe we can sign somebody with you guys here. And we're in the East. It's easy to make the playoffs in the East. We just need a couple things to go our way, and we make a deep playoff run.
No.
Yeah, he's leaving. But props to them for trying. Okay, the next one I want to talk about. Memphis trading Andre Iguodala, because I've seen people slamming Memphis for this. But then again, they just picked up a first-round pick to eat a contract and then traded him for Justice Winslow, who's a young, I don't want to say up-and-coming player. I think he's more of a role player. He's a guy. Role player. He's a guy, but he's young.
Up-and-coming role player.
So you got a first-round pick and Justice Winslow to like hold Andre Iguodala and not let him play for you for a little while. That's good business.
Yeah.
That's good business in a rebuild, right?
I mean, it makes sense.
It does. Everyone's out here slamming Memphis. I was like, Memphis won. Like, they got what they wanted. I don't know. I don't see why people are slamming them, but they are. They're out there killing them, and I'm taking it up for the Grizzlies. Historically not a great franchise in basketball, but this is a win. This is a win here. I think anytime you trade like a 36, 37-year-old Andre Iguodala, who's on a $30 million or a 2-year $30 million contract, whatever it is, and then you're going to go get a young player who's cheaper in return and a first-round pick, you win.
Yeah, you do, but...
And the Heat do too. They get what they need. I'm not saying the Heat
getting a solid...
veteran. A guy who's been there and done that.
Solid defender who's going to be out there playing, his heart out. So.
Yeah. And Justin's saying that Andre's washed up. It's a bad move in his opinion, by the Heat in his opinion.
Well, you say washed up, you mean like washed up like he's completely done with his career? I mean, I don't know, man. I still think he's a decent defender.
I feel like people have been saying that he's been washed up even when he was in Golden State, but he's the guy that you're not asking a ton from him. But
let's not forget this. They asked him to take over Allen Iverson at the Sixers, and like you're going to be the face of our franchise, and he was never that type of player.
I mean, he was a very good player when he was young.
But he was good. He was good.
He was a very good player.
And then he kind of just like bounced back and forth, and then found a home in the Warriors. But what the Warriors asked him to do, I know he made a great shot, and everyone's like, look at that. But no, he defended.
Well,
and he played great defense.
First one they won, I mean, he basically stopped LeBron. I don't want to say stopped. He slowed down LeBron enough for them to win a championship.
Well, he also hit that three that one game. I can't remember now.
And I think that's what the Heat are asking for. Like, we don't need you all the time, but we want a guy who's been to the finals. He knows what it takes to win, and he's going to be the calming effect in the locker room. I think that's okay. I don't think it's great, but...
Maybe even defend the second best player on the opposite team.
Exactly, and I think Memphis did a fantastic job of extracting as much value out of a guy who didn't want to be there at all.
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win. I think just like Cleveland, it's a win-win. Detroit got a little bit of something from an expiring contract. Cleveland got a chance to convince a good to great player. Like, he's not elite just because he doesn't play the type of ball that seems to win in today's NBA. But you're still getting a very good player in Andre Drummond. I think both of those trades to this point have been win-win.
You said that Justice said bad move on the Heat. I think that's the right move. And something like that with Jimmy Butler. He needs more help down there. And again, like you said, it's the East.
It's the East. Just get there, baby. Maybe good things will happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Finally, I want to talk about the Warriors trade where they traded...
Dalton says, what's our opinion on Tyler Hero's season so far? Tyler Hero. Who's that, man? Who's Tyler Hero? Do you know who Tyler Hero is?
I'm not sure what he's talking about.
I don't know.
You changed gears on me, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. I wanted to answer it, but I don't know it, man.
Justin says, washed up as he... I think he's going back to Iguodala here. Justin's saying, washed up as he is, he could be decent for a few games here and there. All the Heat are really valuing from him is a veteran presence, really. He's not going to come out and drop 50. Well, no.
No, but you know.
And you don't trade Justice Winslow for a guy who's dropping 50, right?
Right.
Yeah, so... I agree. He's not dropping 50. He's not leading the charge or anything. But you're getting a guy who's going to come off the bench, and he's going to give you some valuable minutes in the playoffs.
And that's what matters.
And that's important. Yeah, that's 100% important, especially, like you said, in the East, where
Yes.
maybe those couple baskets are the difference between you and another one of the team in this conference. And the East is getting better,
and he won't even.
But it's still not the West.
He's not going to even guard the best player of the opposing team. He'll guard the second best player.
Right.
I mean, realistically.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. We will move on and talk about this last trade.
Justin says that Tyler Hero plays for the Heat, he thinks. I don't know, man. I guess that's on me. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. I'll have to look him up.
You got me too. It's one of those things that even though we're basketball fans or whatever, I think he's come on. Is he the white guy in the Heat? I know I say that. They got actually let a lot of him. I was thinking about that. I was like, how far do they really go?
Is he one of the white guys on the Heat?
I think he is.
I had to look him up, man, to be honest. Again, I apologize. I've been in a haze, but Kansas City being the Super Bowl, all my attention and motivation has gone straight to that. So I feel terrible.
That's okay, though.
Shooting guard for the Heat, for number 14, drafted first round, 13th pick overall. Well, thank you, Dalton. I'll have to look him up, man. I'll have to look him up.
Warriors.
Yes. Andrew Wiggins.
On his way out there. How do you feel about it?
I
like this. I
like
like
add a player that does not shoot well but does everything else decently well, and you're bringing in someone like that with like Stephen Curry and Draymond and Cody and Klay Thompson, next year this is going to be good. But what that does for him this year, I don't think it does a whole lot. I think the West is too hard. I think Andrew Wiggins needs to find a place in that locker room. I know he'll be accepted. I know that Draymond and Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry aren't like, oh, you're not part of this team. They're going to make him be part of it. But it's not like you bring in someone where it's like Kevin Durant.
Well, he's not Kevin Durant.
And you don't bring him in there and he just automatically fits. He's got to find his place in a locker room that's been together for a long period of time, that has succeeded and won championships. So it's not going to be this year this draft, that trade makes a difference. I think it's next year that makes a difference. I actually think this year the Timberwolves get the best deal because you're bringing in Russell with Towns, and they're friends. They already kind of get chemistry with each other. I think that development there shows a lot this year as far as what I see.
Obviously, I think this move for the Warriors is for next year. This is what happens when you get Clay and Steph and Klay Thompson back. But I got to say this. I think this is a great move for them. They're getting a more athletic winger. That is exactly what they've been needing. They're getting a guy that, even though he's not the Kevin Durant replacement, he's going to be a guy that when he's the third and the fourth option in this offense, he's going to be able to put points on the board. He's going to get some rebounds. I think this is a great pickup for them. I think, again, kind of like Justin just said, this could be the cherry on the top for this team that gets them back into the finals and can put them over a team. They're not going to be as good as they were with Durant, but I still think they can be absolutely great with Wiggins coming in for them. I think this is great. I think people are kind of down on this trade because Wiggins didn't work out on the Timberwolves, and sure, I'll give you that. He put up a lot of stats, but none of them were necessarily as meaningful as they could have been. The Timberwolves weren't winning enough even with him there. As for getting rid of D'Angelo Russell, he wasn't going to have a place when Curry came back anyway. I mean, he has to play the one. I mean, best case scenario, you can move him to the two. But even then, can you imagine with him and Curry out there? You just don't have the size.
Yeah.
I don't think defensively that's the right matchup either. I think he's a guy that needs to have the ball in his hands. He needs to shoot, Russell, that is. He needs to shoot sometimes. He needs to have the ball for consistent amounts of time. And Golden State is not that team. Not when you get your stars back. I think bringing in a guy like Wiggins that you're going to be able to dish the ball to and have him take some shots, perfect move for them.
You don't believe in small ball, huh? Houston's doing the wrong thing?
No, I like small ball, but I think you can't have a guy that's just going to dribble for 20 seconds when you have this much talent on the rest of the team. And not that Russell's going to – he's not Harden where he's just going to hold the ball for 20 seconds and then take a shot. But I think he needs to be a guy that possesses the ball, and he's a one. I think he's a one. And you've got Steph Curry, unless you're going to put him on the bench, and they're not going to put him on the bench. Unless you're putting him on the bench, I don't think Russell really fits in with Golden State.
Ryan, good to see you. He asked us and everyone else, who is our basketball team? Mine's the Denver Nuggets.
I actually don't have one. Specifically, I just watch basketball. I enjoy basketball. I'm not like
sad my team is. The Nuggets, yay!
This is the year, man. Have some faith. I said you have to lose one to win one. Golden State's out of the running. This is their year.
Dalton's got two teams. He's picking the Knicks and the Bulls. Stork franchises, both kind of in the slumps.
Well,
Justin
the Knicks have just been there forever. I don't know if that counts as slump when it's been this bad for this long.
They were good in the early...
Like 80s?
No, 90,
like 85, 87.
Well, there's like John Stark and Patrick Ewing.
It's been a minute, Drew. It's been a minute. That was like 20 years ago. That was like 23 years ago.
That's the same thing with the Bulls.
I feel for you as a Knicks fan. I feel for you. You've suffered more than most fan bases have.
Maybe that's why he went off for another team and got the
exactly
Bulls
what Ryan says. Denver is good.
Yeah,
precisely.
So
what are you belly aching over? Oh no, my team's
good with Carmelo
good.
and AI and all of them, and it didn't
never happen.
Out, so
sure.
And the West is so. If we play in the East, maybe. I'm not even saying
everyone wants to play in the East,
but we play in the West. And it's
Denver, Colorado. Just move over to the Eastern time zone.
It's kind of mid-Eastern.
You have to get off work at like 2 every day to to watch their shows.
To ducking every day.
To frickin' watch their games is what I was trying to say. Okay. Final thoughts, Drew. Anything about the NBA trade deadline, the XFL, this year's NFL draft class that you want to talk about?
I need to get into it. My final thoughts are, guys, is I'm sorry. I've been in a fog with the sickness of the Chiefs winning. I've just been out of it. And I can't wait to dive into the draft and really start looking at these guys and looking at film. And I'm excited about it. I think this draft's going to be good. As far as the XFL, I'm ready to see week one. I'm ready to see week one. And
what are we dealing with here?
And I'm asking for a lot, but I want good football.
Yeah. I agree. All I'm saying is entertain me. I don't necessarily need to see the best football, but I want to be entertained while I do it.
Good football.
Well, I won't complain if it's good football. The football can be slightly subpar, but I had a good time watching it, and I'm okay with that too.
I don't know what you say about entertain me. There's some games
J-Lo on the sidelines.
I watch some NFL games where like, this is not entertaining.
Yeah, that is true.
But it's good football.
Every Titans game ever. That's okay, though. Dalton says, who's our favorite college football team?
Iowa Hawkeyes.
Again, college football is one of those sports that I just watch and I just enjoy. I mean, I guess I could say Tennessee because I'm from Tennessee, but Knoxville's like 3.5 hours away from me. I don't feel like I get to claim that.
MTSU.
Yeah, I went there. Tre'Davious Ward.
Yeah.
Kevin Byard.
Stud.
Who else do you need?
Don't need
Tyrone Calico. Studs. Exactly. So, Richie James. Pretty sure he fumbled in the Super Bowl. But it's okay. It's all right. I don't really have a team that I'm necessarily that gung-ho. I just love college football, man. I just love watching the game.
If it wasn't played during the NFL season, I'd probably watch it. I know it's Saturday and Sunday, but it's I don't got that much time on my hands, guys.
And Ryan is all in on the Seattle Dragons for the XFL. Again, this is going to be interesting. I can't wait to see if any of these predictions actually hold up as to who's actually good. Because obviously Bob Stoops and the Dallas Renegades are running away with it. If you listen to everybody, this is the team to beat.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see if that actually holds up. Kind of like Orlando did for...
Did the Alliance League, they say that Orlando was going to run away with it, and they won like 2 games?
Yeah, but then again, they were like, Orlando's going to be pretty good too, and they were literally unbeatable, like blowing everyone out by 40 points. So XFL's going to be interesting. That's my final thought, is I can't wait to see exactly what we're dealing with here, because if this is great, and I get to watch football from February all the way up to April, there's not going to be a happier man than me. Okay? Because, let me tell you, I love team building season, but I love the games too, Drew.
I'm all about the off-season.
Exactly. Give me as much football as you can give me. I would watch it every day if I could. Every day.
You'll watch reruns of the Kansas City Chiefs games throughout, this Super Bowl championship run.
I don't want to watch reruns. I want to watch something happen.
You didn't watch any of those games, dude. You could watch every single play.
Okay.
I will watch them with you, man.
We got some. Yeah, thank you for that. Thanks for your sacrifice,
guys. Thank you again for all the likes, comments, and shares. I appreciate it, and I do want to give a special thanks out to everyone that did comment that I saw, and if I missed you, I apologize as well. But Scott, Justin, Edward, Cherie, Nate, Frank, Ken, James, Ken, Martavius, Joseph, Adam, Bennett, Cody, Bees, Chad, Dalton, Ryan. You guys are all awesome. Thank you.
Great show today. Thanks for hanging out with a couple of sick guys as we powered our way through this. Obviously, it wasn't our most energetic show, but we appreciate you sticking with us. I think I'm going to go lay down and die. Drew, I
got a man cold.
Assuming I survive. Worse than pregnancy, I know.
It is worse than pregnancy.
Assuming I survive, we'll be back.
Childbirth has nothing on what I have.
Yeah, exactly. Assuming I survive, we'll be back on Monday to talk about everything going on in the world of sports, as well as get into more draft coverage. We might do a mock draft if you're ready. We might be doing something else instead. So for Sports Around the Bar, we're going to talk XFL
always
too.
Always giving me homework, man.
Always. For Sports Around the Bar, I am Jake, your bartender. This is Drew, and we hope to catch you guys on Monday.
See ya.